My name is Courtney Burrow. I'm a junior in high school in a suburban town outside of Boston. I participate in sports and try to be as involved with my school and my community as possible. Throughout my time in high school, I have been surrounded by people preparing to do amazing things with their life. So when they hear my aspiration, which is to have a career then when the time is right to become a parent, and how I hope to have the opportunity to be a stay-at-home parent, people in my community, my peers, are disappointed in me. They think that I am aiming too low. Having grown up with a stay-at-home mother, I understand the hard work that goes into the job and the amazing advantages with her day-to-day presence. While I hope to spend my life before children working, when I have kids, I want to switch to that important role. From 1987 to 1999, stay-at-home mothers dropped dramatically in numbers. People began to believe that it was taking a step back on the feminist cause. But I believe that being a stay-at-home mother is not taking a step back on the feminist cause. I believe that it is taking a step toward having the right to choose. In addition, stay-at-home fathers have never been widely accepted in our society. While I also appreciate the place of working parents in our society, I believe that stay-at-home parents are not sufficiently valued for their contribution to our society. Stay-at-home parenting is a viable alternative to a paid career and offers its own challenges and rewards.
So I'm Christina Lucas, and I have 4 kids, and I am a stay-at-home parent at the moment.
My name is Alexander Jesser. I'm an at-home dad. I actually refer to it as an HH, a house husband, and I've been so for the last 20 years.
I'm Kathleen Mortimer. I have 2 boys, and I have worked since they have been born.
My name is Shannon Burrow. I am a stay-at-home mother, and I have 3 children.
My name is Michelle Miller. I have been a stay-at-home mom for, I guess, about 15 years now. And before that, I was half working.
Hi, I'm Laura Moon, and I'm a working parent, mother of 2 children.
Hi, I'm Michelle Roman, and I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, although I was working initially.
Why people decide to stay at home or not differs from person to person. Frequently, finances won't allow it. However, research shows that mothers below the poverty line are more likely to be staying at home than working. A lot of stay-at-home parents, particularly fathers, say they are unemployed or staying home due to disability. In total, only 1 in 10 mothers are stay-at-home parents. Many parents report that they need work in their lives in order to remain good parents. I want to stay at home in my future because I want to be present for my children. I have had the benefit of constant access to a parent, and I really hope I have the chance to provide that to my children as well. Our society needs to acknowledge that being a stay-at-home parent is a real career option.
Before we got married, we decided we wanted one person at home, and we always thought that would be the right thing to do. And I knew right away that was something I could do, and she said that's something I cannot do.
But I didn't have great luck with babysitters or nannies or people to stay with my kids.
Part of it was economic. To live the lifestyle we wanted, we needed 2 incomes to do so. But part of it, I think back to when my kids were really young, we were able to find childcare situations that worked really well for us. And when I thought about how I could be the best parent, I came to the conclusion that it probably wasn't as a full-time parent.
When I was pregnant with my first child, I was finishing my PhD, so I had a hard time imagining not putting that to good use. I felt like it was an important part of who I was, and it was something that I felt I could juggle both.
According to research, stay-at-home mothers would be worth $117,000 a year, not including the amount of overtime pay they would receive for working more than 40 hours a week. In a survey of 18,000 stay-at-home mothers, they reported an average work week of 94.4 hours. This means that more than half of the time they spend working is overtime. A few of the roles of stay-at-home parents include driving children, buying groceries, cleaning the house, doing laundry, helping children with schoolwork, entertaining children, and oftentimes volunteering at the children's school. The reality for stay-at-home parents is that there is not an end to the workday. They can't simply go home from work. While stay-at-home parenting is not viewed as a difficult job, I personally view it differently. I've had friends criticize my wish to be a stay-at-home parent and describe stay-at-home parents as being lazy and not useful. But this research contradicts that view.
The day-to-day grind of laundry and cars and all of that kind of stuff is unglamorous, but that's part of the whole gig.
If you think about the rigmarole of it, it can be a little depressing, but if you ignore that, it's actually very fulfilling. So.
Oftentimes, working parents regret not spending enough time with their children. They think that their parenting is suffering because of the lack of a presence in the child's life. It is very hard to be pulled in so many directions with both work and parenting. However, for many, if they do not have that income, they would not be able to put food on the table or live the kind of lifestyle they would like to. And in fact, many parents need working in their life in order to be happy. And in order to have a happy family, you need a happy parent. There are ways to get around not seeing children as frequently, like family dinners.
Yeah, there were times where I felt a little frustrated about not being able to do my work and have the joy of being home with the kids. I definitely felt like there were times where I was missing out on things with my kids. I think probably any parent, whether they work or not, has a certain component of parental guilt of, should I do this? Should I do more of this? Should I do less of this? And so I think over the years, I've felt it in different ways at times where, there were probably periods where I felt like I wasn't doing my best either at home or at work. I guess I found for me that to come back to the things that are most important to me and quite frequently revisit my overall priorities and goals and figure out how can I make day-to-day decisions that are in support of those goals.
I feel spread too thin sometimes. Especially in the summer when my friends are at the beach and are vacationing longer or doing a lot of other things. I feel really spread thin, and I feel like there's definitely times my physical health, my emotional health, my family, like my my extended family, some of those suffer because there's just not enough hours in the day to do it all.
For years, there have been studies on the benefits of staying home when a child is young. Statistics show that these children are in a very influential period, and the constant presence of a parent is very important to their development. However, many argue that the same result can come from others caring for the child, especially in a situation where they need to maintain that income for the household. But full-time nannies can often cost more than a person is making at their jobs, so sometimes finances can also encourage people to stay home. I want to be the main influencer in my future children's life. I wouldn't be comfortable putting them entirely in the hands of another person. But for many, having another person care for their child is the best option.
I feel that the first few years of a child's life are really critical, and I feel that having the ability to be a constant influence in those early years is really important.
I think the major feeling that I had when I was working was that I wanted to be a really good parent, and I also wanted to be, wanted to do very well at my job. And it was hard to do both the way I wanted to do it. I knew I was going to miss out on certain things, but I had two very good nannies who would clue me in and so on. So I didn't feel like, oh gee, I hate working and so on, and missing that.
The most important thing is who it is. It doesn't necessarily have to be the mother, but the quality of the person that's caring for them.
I think if I found that great babysitter, like if Mary Poppins flew into my door or something, that it probably would work out.
A recent study in Norway shows that it is incredibly beneficial for parents to stay at home in children's early teenage years. The presence can increase children's grades and mental stability. Part of this is just being available to the child for conversation. Working parents can achieve this. However, it is more difficult. I confide in my mother constantly. She has become someone who I can share problems with when I can't share them with friends.
Small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. And it does get more difficult. It gets easier and more difficult. The homework, the teenage years, everything up to a toddler was fine. It's in the high school years, that's where it gets a little more difficult.
Yeah, I think a lot of times our studies probably focus on the early years and less on the teenage years, and we all know teenage years are an incredibly complex phase of life, and if a study says it's best for parents to stay home, if they can't put food on the table, then it's not best. And but if they can find work and find a relative or a provider who provides the quality care to the children, then that is the best solution.
In fact, one of my sisters who did go back to work had told me that. She said, work when your kids are little and quit when they're in middle school. There's a lot more to keep track of in a different way when your kids are in middle school and high school, and having a very present parent, I do think is important.
I think there's just so much talking that happens that is
not between certain hours. That just happens at random times, or the kids have a question or say something or make a comment, and it's just great to be able for them to know that they're supported and listened to.
In the 90s, the U.S. created the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, which mandates a 12-week maternity leave for new mothers. This act holds the jobs of women for a brief time, which is hardly the amount of time needed to settle in a new baby. But it has certain restrictions. It never mentions paternity leave, and the U.S. is one of only 2 developed countries that does not have government-mandated paid parental leave.
The thought of having a 6-week-old and having to be back to work full-time, I can't even imagine how someone does that. Especially if you're not really comfortable with childcare situations you have, or if you have any health problems, or the kid's not sleeping yet, and I don't know how people do it.
For most women, it's a choice between, paying the bills or staying with their baby, and I completely understand it, but I think maternity leave should be longer.
It's hard to get back in the swing of things after you're away, and it's hard for the company to sort of hold that spot for you.
I feel that our country does not serve our parenting community well enough by making it easy for parents to stay at home. I think that some of our partners in Europe are doing a much better job of supporting families in ways that are concrete and financial and allowing parents to stay at home for more extended periods of time.
Most of Europe includes both fathers and mothers in government-mandated paid parental leave. They also have significantly longer parental leave, typically between 14 and 22 weeks. This longer amount of time to adapt prevents depression and fosters a closer bond between the children and the parents.
I think we should get on board and follow the world's example.
I think Sweden is probably at the vanguard of understanding what it takes to support healthy families and healthy children. I think the arguments you get here in the US is on the work side of what employers' needs are and what predictability they need. Yet we have examples in Europe where it works and it can be figured out, and some of that may mean that we need to change how we structure jobs within the professional sphere.
I do think it should change. I don't know exactly how it should be funded. I think you can't put that burden on a small business necessarily. If you have 3 employees and one wants to be out for 6 months after they have a baby, I think that could break someone's business. So I don't think it necessarily can be funded by the companies. I think some kind of government program or some other kind of reverse Social Security.
It's not the so much usually the salaried worker and so on, but it's the hourly worker, the people.
Only 1 in every 100 fathers are stay-at-home dads. Throughout history, men have been the providers, leaving the home and supporting their family by working outside of the home. Due to this stereotype and generalization, few fathers today feel comfortable giving up their job in order to assume the role of a stay-at-home parent.
When I was a child, I knew I would be like 30, 31 in the year 2000, and I tried to figure out what would I be doing in the year 2000. And we came up, me and my brother, because we're twins, of the top 100 list. But even if I had taken it out to 1,000, I would never have had at-home parent. It wasn't even possible.
I can only imagine what that experience is for the stay-at-home father, but I would imagine that they probably could also use some more cultural and societal support for their choice to help to really, make a sacrifice of leaving their job to help watch the kids.
Most of the entrees into making connections as a stay-at-home parent, which is very critical for your personal well-being, are easier for stay-at-home mothers than stay-at-home fathers.
But to this day, and I'm 50 years old, my father has not come to grips with my decision. That's because he was a product of a different generation where men worked and women stayed at home. So, ultimately it's the same. It's just the way we go about doing just daily things. I have a dad's perspective and take on it, and not a female take on it.
Few stay-at-home parents just stay at home and do household work all day. Many volunteer in their community in schools. The school systems depend on these volunteers in order to get the help they need for important projects and to compensate for cuts in governmental support for schools. Throughout my life, my mother has been involved with my school, and in the end, many of her jobs were basically full-time jobs. She just wasn't compensated for them.
I think our current school systems rely on a lot of voluntary support, and so stay-at-home parents play a critical role in that. I think working parents can support it, but some of the volunteer needs that exist within the school systems are huge and are much like full-time jobs in their own right. They're just not paid.
And the amount of parent involvement is extensive, sometimes over the top, but extensive and helpful. And a lot of the things that happen would never be funded. The parents run them, and it does make it a real community and provides the kids with a lot of opportunities that other communities can't have.
The fundamental concept our society needs to grasp about stay-at-home parenting is that it is a choice, a very valuable and valuable one. It is the same as choosing to be a doctor or a journalist. We have to value it like compensated careers as well. People cannot criticize people for staying at home or working.
I guess everybody has to make the right decision for themselves.
I feel that the decision is very personal.
Things don't always go according to what you think they're going to be like when you start out and so on.
You have to live your own life and not be affected by what other people say.
I think you can't have it all. And as someone said, you can't have it all. You can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. There were times that I definitely missed out a lot career-wise too, because I chose to work half-time. And so no matter what, you're not going to be able to do it all and have the full experiences. And so I just kind of always tried to step back and say, am I getting at least the most out of whatever it is that I have?
I think the philosophy that I have now is that your adult life is really quite long. 50 plus years is a long time, and you can do it in bits and pieces, and you can spend time in your career, spend time with kids, go back to your career.
When you're younger, you can think more that you can have it all, and that might lead to putting working women up on a pedestal. I think societally we don't value enough the role of parenting. We give a lot of lip service, but our actions don't always mirror that.
Many parents agree that raising kids is the most rewarding and important role they ever have in their life. Keep parenting in mind as you explore careers. Understand that there is an opportunity for you to have an impact on both your family and the world, and as you juggle your priorities, consider all choices. Keep in mind this alternative choice of stay-at-home parenting, and consider it. Accept those who choose a different path than yours. No matter what career and or parenting path you take, it will certainly be both difficult and rewarding. And as you move forward in your life, remember to look back with gratitude. You are the person you are today because of your parents.